Hello, you're welcome to Dual Political Blog. I hope you're having a warm weekend. I hope you're having a great Sunday. I hope you're enjoying your time with your families. And I hope you're grappling with the current realities in Nigeria at the moment. As you can see it, for those who are following me, and as those who are not, my name is Joel Kenny, and I always try to give insight about the things happening in Nigeria, in Africa and across the world. But today our focus will be on what is happening in Nigeria. Nigeria being the giant of Africa, I think that status gradually being reduced by current realities in Nigeria, where the common man can no longer be. The common man can no longer breathe, even if the president said that we should let the poor rest. And today we'll be looking at issues that relates to the current increase of the petroleum products, of course, increasing the price of petroleum products, and of course the issue of minimum wage, the inflation going on, the poverty, and of course the insecurity. And in the midst of all of this, there will be some other issues that we will discuss, because when you discuss the issue of subsidy removal, increase in petroleum product, minimum wage, insecurity, there are lots of issues, that make up these things that we want to talk about. So if we talk about insecurity, we want to talk about how it affects agricultural production. Talk about insecurity, we want to talk about how it affects the economy. If we want to talk about the increasing price of petroleum product, we want to talk about how it affects inflation. We want to talk about how it affects how the common man gets food to eat. We want to talk about how it affects the movement of people, how it affects the price of commodities. If you talk about the minimum wage, we want to talk about how, is it okay? Is it taking people home? Is the minimum wage? Is it the living wage? How beneficial is the minimum wage to everybody who lives in Nigeria? Because we understand the minimum wage is currently at 70,000 naira. That's the current minimum wage. But even so, at that, some states cannot pay minimum wage. So these are some of the issues we will be tackling today. And so if you're seeing this, you can share so other people can be part of what we're doing today. And you can also decide if you like, if you want to be part of what we're doing, you can send a request to be part of what we're doing. I'll bring you up, and then you share some insights about what you think about the current increase in the price of petroleum products and how it affects the economy, the issue of inflation, what the government should have done, what the government is not doing, and a whole lot on how to get Nigeria to the next level and how to ensure we have a very strong and vibrant middle class, because the current realities not support the middle class. So we'll just start right away. And the first thing I want to talk about is on May 29, 2023, the President Tinubu announced that subsidy removal is gone. That subsidy is gone. That subsidy is now totally removed. And someone wonders, you're removing subsidy. And because the IMF and the World Bank, some of the highest, who will give out debt to Nigeria highest debtors, and they've always emphasized on the removal of subsidy on petroleum products. So the question I want to ask is, the current president, was the current government doing everything to placate the World Bank, or they're actually doing everything because they want to sustain the economy? And when the president announced that subsidy was removed, a few months after that, they announced that they are floating the naira. So what that means is another way, it's a systematic way of saying that the currency, has been devalued. Because if you make the currency a free float, like what the government is doing, it means it's another word for, devaluing the currency, and which is not helping Nigeria. Now, I will just explain a few things before we get to the current reality that we're seeing in Nigeria. Now, two major policies that the government, announced in 2023 that is affecting what we are seeing today. Complete removal of subsidy on petroleum product and floating of the currency. But in most countries of the world, what people don't understand is there are no subsidies on petroleum product, but there are measures that the government have put in place to cushion the effect of this removal or whatever you want to remove. That's because economies that are tied to oil, there are so many things that can go wrong if subsidy is removed from petroleum product. Case in point is in Nigeria here. Almost everything, every business, every aspect of livelihood is tied around petroleum. So when you remove the subsidy on petroleum that Nigerians are enjoying, and then you do not put palliatives in place, what will result is mass poverty. And then somebody will say, the government is doing everything to ensure that Nigeria in the next 10 years will benefit from it. But I want to put it clearly here. Please, let's be reminded, for some who will probably see this video at some point and will think it's a criticism against the current government. It's not. I'm not criticizing the current government. I'm only discussing the realities, The issues that led to what Nigerians are suffering today. So I'm pleased if you can see me or you're watching this video, please just drop a note. And if you want to be part of what we're discussing, just send an invitation. I'll bring you up and then you just share your insight. But in the meantime, I'm just going to analyze certain things. Now, in 2001, 2002, the Nigerian Bureau for Statistics released statistics, saying that before we used to say Nigerians, according to the World Bank, that a lot of Nigerians live below poverty line. That means a lot of Nigerians cannot spend, $1 per day, Now, in 2001, 2002, in the build-up to the election, the Nigerian Bureau for Statistics released statistics saying that Nigerians no longer live in poverty, but now multidimensional poverty. Now, what that means is that healthcare, education, security, and what have you have deteriorated so bad that Nigerians no longer live in poverty, but worse than poverty. And Nigeria, no doubt, since 2016, 2017 has become the poverty capital of the world, overtaking India, who have close to 1 billion in population. That means you have more poor people in Nigeria than India. So, from my thinking is the current administration did not study anything, did not study any blueprint, did not study statistics, did not put anything into consideration before they removed the subsidy on petroleum product. And that is why Nigerians are not the better for it at the moment. Because before you remove subsidy, you're supposed to put palliatives in place. And palliatives, in the books of the current government, palliatives is giving people rice, giving people food. Palliatives goes beyond giving people just stipends, giving people 50,000 naira per month, in the interim, giving people bags of rice or giving people grains. Palliatives goes beyond giving people this stipends and food. Palliatives will putting transportation in place. We know that the government have said that they will bring CNG buses, but given the routes in Abuja, just stay in Abuja alone, how, will this cover the entire length and, the breadth, the length and breadth of Abuja, Kanu, Port Harcourt, Ekiti, Kogi, Zamfara, Kebbi? Taraba, how would this CNG bus, how many of these CNG buses will be imported or reassembled to cater for this need? This should have been done. Removing the subsidy before providing palliative is like putting the cart before the horse. So what we expect of the government, because people think palliative is just about giving people food. No, it goes beyond that. How did the civil servants get to work? How about healthcare? How about education? Before education, based on the UNESCO recommendation, funding for education should be like 26% of the national budget. We've never had that in Nigeria. Okay, now in the Africa Heads of State meeting of the African Union, they decided that to combat food security in Africa and to ensure the boosting of agriculture, countries within Africa should budget 10% of national budget to fund agriculture. That has not been done in Nigeria. So if the government is removing subsidy, it simply means the palliative should have been in place. Now, like I said, palliative is not about food. What the issue of the transportation, education, healthcare, the roads, these are the things that help businesses, especially the medium scale businesses, to excel. Now, the government have not put all of this in place, and they are removing subsidy. And we've been told several times that subsidy is corruption and all of that. Now, what we expect of the government, especially this current position, if you are going to remove subsidy in totality, what we expect the government to do is to remove the subsidy in phases. Now, while they are removing subsidy in phases, they are putting these palliatives in place in phases. That way, when the subsidy is totally removed, the people will be better off. Because ask yourself this very basic question. You have removed subsidy on petroleum product. And you know that petroleum product is the driver of the Nigerian economy. You have removed subsidy on petroleum product. That means every other product, every other thing that we see in Nigeria, the price of every other thing will be triggered by the removal, because people now buy petroleum at a very high price. Buy petrol at a very high price, which will now, lead to the increment in the price of goods. Now, another thing I expect the government that they should have done before they remove the subsidy in totality, provide security, because the food belt of Nigeria, the Benue, the Jos, and the rest of them, they are currently battling high-level insecurity as a result of the farmers' herders clashes, and the production from these areas have reduced. And now you have removed subsidy. How the little that's even there, how do you transport them to the common man? So what we expect the government should have done is to ensure that security is maintained. Because if you go to Zamfara, if you go to Kebbi, Sokoto, Katsina, Kaduna, and those parts of the northwest, banditry have taken over. That means people who either to go to farm in those areas cannot even go to farm. And you're removing subsidy on petroleum product. How would people sustain? I have not even fought the insecurity in those areas. How will people go to farm? Because now that bandits collect levies from people before they go to how can people access their farms? How can you ensure food production? Because when there's massive food production, the price of food will reduce. But now with insecurity that is currently, putting Nigerians by the jugular, how can we ensure food security? And then you have removed subsidy on petroleum. Another thing is you have removed subsidy on electricity. Now, let me just give you a very simple analogy. The guy that cuts hair by the corner shop, the barber, now he has to pay more for electricity, for fuel to fuel his generator. If he has the electricity, which is not regular, maybe it's on band A, he has to pay more. And that means that his customers will have to pay more for his service, because aside that he has to pay tax, settle his business, pay for shop and all of that, he has to make profit. So where will the profit come from? The profit will have to come from the excess charges he will make from all of this. Now, all of this joined together is what is bringing the inflation that we're seeing. And, education. Now, a lot of universities in Nigeria, in subsequent postings, I'm going to be showing the tuition fee level for most institutions in Nigeria. They've increased their fees, both from the private, the state, and the federal institutions, education institutions. They've increased fees for, the tuition fees, even they say no tuition fees, but they've increased fees that students will have to pay to remain as students and to be enrolled as students, in this institution. Now, all of this is triggered by this subsidy removal. Now, students whose parents are not, whose parents are not even, maybe they will come to the minimum wage, who are not earning enough, and they have 2 kids in the university, how can they maintain this fees? Because the average Nigerian is a local government. You have to provide water for yourself, electricity, security, and a whole lot. Now, in the midst of all of this, where will we now have the extra pay to settle this, settle that? So, like what somebody has said, the government is not in tune with the plight of the people. And before you remove subsidy or before you do something like this, you're first supposed to feel the pulse of the people. And how do you feel that? You do that through a town hall. Definitely the large state of Nigeria. You can do the town hall in the sister political zones. Feel the pulse of the people before you remove subsidy. Otherwise, we want to agree that the subsidy removal is just simply to placate the World Bank and the IMF. That's what we saw in 1986 when Babangida was the president, and he had to lend towards the World Bank and the IMF. That's what we're seeing. And what I think the government should have done before announcing total removal of subsidy was they should have taken into account the report of Nigerian Bureau of Statistics 2001-2002, which says that more Nigerians are now battling not just with poverty, but with multidimensional poverty. Now they have increased the price of petroleum products. What does that tell you? It simply tells you that the movement of food products, the little that are available, like movement of rice from Kura to some part, it means it's going to cost a lot of money. Now all this will will affect the price at which the common man buys this commodity in the market. So the government should have put security in place to ensure food production, should have ensured that the insecurity thing is curtailed before removing the subsidy, because now you have more people in poverty than before. And before the current administration came on board, the unemployment level in Nigeria, which was the second largest in the entire world, was around 32%. Now it's going to 34%, which currently makes Nigeria the most unemployed country of unemployed people in the whole world. And food inflation is now over 40%, while the current level of inflation is over 33%. So the government should have take into account these statistics before even removing the petroleum product. Now, the government excuse is that there's so much corruption in the petroleum industry. So that's an indictment on the part of the government. The government is simply saying that those who are corrupt, they are far bigger. And they've said, and there's this saying that nobody can rise above the intellectual level of the state. So if the government knows people who are involved in this corruption, so why don't you remove the subsidy in phases? Why go all out to fight corruption, fight insecurity, put palliatives in place, transport system, just like you have in Europe. It's not rocket science. Nigeria can do it. We have the financial resources. Otherwise, if the government is saying, please, bear with us, we can get all of this fixed, but extra budgetary expenses to buy a new jet for the president. The jet of the US government is over 34 years old. The Nigerian bribing the jet for the president in Nigeria. It's just 19 years old, but you're buying a new one. You're buying an Escalade for the president. You're building a new house for the vice president. You're renovating the presidential guest lodge in Lagos for over 10 billion. And then you are taking supplementary budget to buy a new car for the president's wife, members of National Assembly. And you're not even buying these cars from Nigeria. You are importing these cars with the exchange rate. That after you have quoted the currency, you are now buying these cars from abroad at that exchange rate, putting pressure on the naira. And then with the level of inflation, I just learned today that the fee from Nyanya to Area 1 is 1,000 naira. That is, Nigeria is gradually, heading towards hyperinflation. Because the time will come, the naira will become as useless as anything. Because we have so much naira chasing very few goods. That's hyperinflation. And what the countries who want to stabilize their currency, what do they resort to? They have to resort to decimalization. I just thought Nigeria will not get to that level where we have to decimalize the currency to stabilize it. Where we can simply just, do things internally to ensure, aside decimalization, to ensure that the currency gets the stability. Because now, the government is talking about tax. You are taxing people who are already in poverty. You are taxing people who are already in poverty. Now, that means the money you say you are saving from the subsidy, where is there's high electricity, you have removed subsidy electricity, you're not dedicated electricity into banks. Where is the funds that you are getting from saving from? Because the subsidy removal thing is even political. Because today we hear the government is paying 1 trillion for subsidy, as against 350 billion that we used to know during Buhari time. The government is likely paying close to 1 trillion. So that means Nigerian people are not, they don't even take Nigerians, the ordinary Nigerians, into cognizance when promulgating some of these policies. Now, education. The government will do supplementary budget for all manner of things aside education, aside housing, aside medication, aside the hospital, big hospitals, and the government that is telling Nigerians to please exercise patience, that the policies will yield something better in the next 10 years. I agree, but I'm yet to understand the name of this policy. And so this same government is building a road called the Coastal Road from Lagos to Calabar. You don't need that road at this time. You are spending something equivalent as your national budget to build a road from Lagos to Calabar called the Coastal Road. You don't need it. There are so many deplorable roads in Nigeria that half of that budget would have stabilized, and the Nigerian road will be like Europe. That you will travel 5, 10, 6, 7 hours and you will not see off any form of pothole. There won't be any bandits on the road and all of that. So why? Because the coastal road from Lagos to Calabar, we're meant to understand that each kilometer costs around 5 to 7 billion to do. And you are given to a construction company that is questionable. So, what we are saying is the issue of subsidy removal in Nigeria is very, very premature, considering the high level of poverty in Nigeria before this current administration came in. Except they are trying to tell Nigerians that they are just trying to placate the IMF and the World Bank because the poverty level is too much. And the inflation level 2 months ago was 40% for full inflation. Now it will go to 45% if care is not taken. And what that means is the naira is going down because you cannot remove subsidy and float the naira at the same time. No country does that. Economically, you are just trying to kill the country. And you are not putting the cost of governance in Nigeria. Because if you earn 150,000 naira now, for example, or let's talk about the minimum wage, which is part of the thing we'll talk about. If you talk about the minimum wage for 70,000 naira, and You live in Kubwa, for example. Let's talk about Kubwa. You live in Kubwa and you have to transport yourself to Wuse 5 times in a day. That means you have to spend 2,000 naira, for just transport alone, aside feeding. So if you do that that's 10,000. That's 10,000 in a week. Okay, 10,000 a week, and then 40,000 in a month. And then what is left for feeding? Housing, electricity, healthcare, education, school fees for children, and all of that. Where is the common man going? So for me, I think the present government, they are so innocent. Well, I think, because there are two things that always come to my mind when I think about it. I think it's either the government is playing to the gallery, trying to placate the IMF and the World Bank, or the current government is just, the state where only the rich survives. Like in Lagos now, we're made to understand that the governor has said, okay, civil servant can go to work twice a week. But do they have the technological, the technology that civil servant can work? Because Nigeria has been so, conservative in their civil service that you have to be physical to get things done. So civil servants who are from grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, who have to do certain things, sign certain documents for people to get paid and all of that. Can they do that from their houses? They cannot do that from their houses. How many even civil servants? Let's even take Lagos. How many civil servants in Zamfara, in Sokoto, in Taraba, in Gawa, in Kogi are even computer literate? Even if they're computer literate, how many of them can even afford computers to do some of this job? How much of computers has the government of these states provided so that civil servants can do their work effectively from the house? How many civil servants can even afford internet? Because if you have to work remotely, it simply means that whatever job you are doing has to. So, how many civil servants can even do these things? So these are the things we are talking about. So, basically, the Nigerian government is just failing the common man. And I don't want to go into issues where, when it comes to election, we still have the same recycled kind of people in government who do not even understand, because the kind of economics that we see in Nigeria, the economics that favors only the elites, because the common man is not better off for all of this. The common man is suffering. Now, in every vibrant economy, the middle class is what drives the economy. But what we have now in Nigeria, it simply means if you're not rich, you are poor. The middle class is totally out. Because in the last 7-8 years, a lot of medium enterprise have still shopped in Nigeria. But even some of the big ones also closing shop, simply because the cost of doing business in Nigeria is becoming too expensive. And Nigeria is now gradually reduced to what they call a sachet economy. And when an economy gets that level, when an economy gets to a sachet level, it simply means it is going down. Because you have to buy milk in a sachet, buy this in a sachet. Just, these companies will have to pay tax. Will have to pay tax, pay workers, do everything. So the best thing for them is just to move to a country where the cost of doing business is low. And that's why we have lots of companies leaving Nigeria today. And the minimum wage is nothing to write home about. 70,000 naira. 70,000 naira, and you expect productivity in the civil service. And you expect people not to take bribes. And you expect people to do things, with the whole of their hearts to ensure that the country moves forward. It's absolutely not. Because a man was just 2 children and earned 70,000 naira, even with the wife to work in the civil service, and they both had 70,000 naira each, which is 140,000 naira. It is not enough to cater for a family of 4, considering that they have to pay transportation, the high cost of petroleum. Oftentimes, there's no electricity. They have to buy electricity units that is exorbitant. They have to pay transport, pay health care, all manner of things. The money is not even enough to save. So Nigerians would now just have to live from hand to mouth. So if you want to be part of what I'm talking about and you want to take part, you can just send a request. I'll just bring you up briefly and then we'll solve. Otherwise, please, you can share. Please share. Please share this video on your timeline so other people can see what we're doing. Other people can, share their views or understand how the current state of Nigeria at the moment has really impoverished the people, and we need to talk about these things. Sometimes we talk about these things and then you're vilified, because imagine people who have protested for good governance in Nigeria, and then you see them being arrested for treason. And this Nigeria is a democracy. Nigerian democracy is something I'll talk about in a different time. If I have to do a comparative analysis of the kind of democracy we practice in Nigeria and what is obtainable in other climes, you see that what we have in Nigeria is not democracy but civilian administration. Just civilian rule. No, it's not democracy, just civilian rule. So if you want to be part of this, please kindly share this. If you want to be part of what I'm talking about, please, you can just send a request. I just bring you up briefly and then just share your insight, and then we'll round it up for the day. But in the meantime, please don't forget to follow me. All right, you can follow me on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel on Joel Political Blog, and follow me on TikTok as well as Instagram, so we can get updates about what we are talking. So for next week, our discussion will be about the upcoming governorship election in Edo State and some of the what we have seen so far. The campaigns that are going on in few days from now. Edo people will go to the polls and they will be discussing, the elections, the chances of all the candidates, the three major political parties. But in the meantime, you can just drop your comments here. Okay. Earlier you said there's no way we talk of the state of the nation without the system that brought in the government. Yes, I don't want to talk about that, because if I talk about that, it will look like we are trying to criticize the government, trying to criticize the system. But what I can say is that Nigerians, are caught in a web of ethnicity and religion, and that's how we're recycling leaders who do not mean well for the ordinary people. Since 1999, they're just there to promote the elites, and people just get richer for themselves and without the people. So, please, if you are going to watch this at any time, please share and get the people to see this video. If you have any comments, you can just drop your comments, then also follow me and get other people to follow me as well. I remain Joel Kim.